ప్రేక్షకులందరికీ నమస్కారం. భక్తి భారతి ఛానల్ కి స్వాగతం. నయా స్వామి దేవర్షి గారు ఇప్పుడు మనతో పాటు ఉన్నారు. మనం లైఫ్ లో ఎన్నో ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ తో సతమతం అవుతూ ఉంటాం. అసలు మన లైఫ్ ఎటుపోతుందో కూడా మనకే కొన్నిసార్లు అర్థం కాదు. ఇలాంటి విషయాలన్నిటి గురించి కూడా చాలా క్లియర్ గా హౌ టు సీ గాడ్, హౌ టు లవ్ గాడ్ అండ్ హౌ టు లవ్ అవర్ సెల్ఫ్స్ అండ్ హౌ టు గెట్ ఇన్ టు సెల్ఫ్ రియలైజేషన్, వీటన్నిటి గురించి కూడా మనకి టీచింగ్స్ అందిస్తూ ఉంటారు. మరి నయా స్వామి దేవర్షి గారు రీసెంట్ గా క్రియా యోగా అనే పుస్తకాన్ని రాశారనమాట. ఆయన రాసిన ఎన్నో పుస్తకాల్లో ఇది కూడా ఒక అద్భుతమైన పుస్తకం. సో గురువు గారిని పాలకరించి అసలు పరమహంస యోగానంద గారి గురించి, ఆనంద సంఘ గురించి, అలాగే ఈ క్రియా యోగా గురించి ఎన్నో విషయాలు తెలుసుకుందాం. గురూజీ నమస్తే.
Namaste, Aparna. Thank you.
Usually we human beings go for success. Even in meditation, we will have a goal. I need to see God, I need to see God, or I need to communicate God. So is this goal-oriented approach in spiritual path works?
You know, I think having some of that is actually really good, because on the spiritual path, we do have the goal of becoming saintly, becoming a master. We have the idea of moksha, and we have the vision of what's possible for us to be a divine being, to reclaim really our divine birthright, as Yoganandaji would put it. So to have a goal like that is good, because it motivates us with what is possible, and we know that it's possible, and we start working towards that. Now, if we define success always in the moment as either success or failure, we meditate, we don't find God in that meditation. Doesn't mean it was a failed meditation, but just try to see it, have the goal, but also try to see it as directional, starting from where we are at right now. The goal is moksha. I'm not there yet. I'm far from there, but I can take the step to become a kinder person, a better person. I can start to work with calming my emotions and starting to occasionally have a good deep meditation where I feel some presence of God, and try to see it as directional. And if we go through life, through the days, the weeks, the years of life, of that sense of always being, directionally oriented rather than just goal oriented, we make really extraordinary progress in one lifetime. Spiritual progress.
Okay.
Now it's the same with success outwardly.
Right.
And it is important. For many people, they have a karma to have to find a way to succeed in life, because that success can be the springboard for success spiritually.
Correct.
And maybe they have the dharma to have a successful life and to support a family and to fulfill that obligation which many people have in a life. And so to have a goal for success, but don't put all of your self-worth on whether you succeeded or not.
Yeah.
The way Yogananda put it, he said, when you fail, he said, don't ever call yourself a failure or a sinner. Don't ever consider it even a failure. Just say, I have not yet succeeded. I have not yet succeeded. And to be always having that positive, forward-looking direction to go into, and just seeing it as directional. And I've seen that with the spiritual path, many people that I know, they feel like they haven't really succeeded maybe, but if they look back 10 years previously, they've been taking one steady, slow step at a time, and they've made great progress, even though they haven't reached the goal yet, but they've made progress towards the goal. And you can't climb the mountain in one huge step.
Right.
You have to take one step at a time and go up the mountain, and sometimes you stumble and fall back a little bit, but then you just start climbing again. So having the goal is good, but also being in the moment with the step that we are taking right now, and trying to make forward progress with each step. And great progress can be made in one life that way.
Right. So I have a few questions. And first of all is it possible to attain moksha in just one life?
Yes, it sure is.
Really?
Yeah, Yogananda said once, and he was a master, so he knew what he was talking about.
Yeah.
He had a Kriya initiation. When people receive Kriya through him, through our lineage, it's done through a ceremony with many people receiving it, or a number of people together. At a Kriya initiation, he looked at the people receiving it. He said, you should hope to become a Jivan Mukta in this lifetime through Kriya Yoga.
Mm.
And he said, that should be your expectation,
Mm.
to become Jivan Mukta in this lifetime. And he said, there will be many who are here who will achieve that, is what he said, who are present at that moment. And he was saying that for all of us who practice Kriya, for everyone. He was saying, you should be aiming for that. Another time I understand that he said that if you have that goal, that expectation, that hope, and you really work at it to the end of life, he said that if you don't achieve it in this lifetime, he said you would be reborn into a situation in the next lifetime where you would very quickly have the support and the karma to achieve it very quickly. So it is possible. And I was born in America, and that was in one way, it was very fortunate, because when I read Autobiography of a Yogi, I read Kriya Yoga, Moksha, I thought, I can do this. He's telling me how I can do it. I know I can do it in this lifetime. And so there was no thought of how hard it is.
Yeah.
And in India, we understand how hard it is. It's not easy.
Yes.
But he made it seem possible, if not easy, but at least possible. And I've seen that it is. I've seen many people who are very close to me, who I've seen them go through a whole lifetime of Kriya practice and meditation. And I've seen them leave the body. I've been with some of them when they literally left the body, and they left with extraordinary freedom. I mean, freedom that I believe is either close to or was moksha, the extraordinary amount of joy and bliss that they experienced in the moment of their passing. And I've seen this enough times to know that, yes, it is possible.
Whoever died,
Yeah.
they can go peacefully, as you
Yes.
said. But whoever is left alone, they will have all the suffering. So
Yeah.
how did you cope up with that part,
Yeah.
and how one should go with loved ones dying?
You know, I have a whole chapter in the book that's
Oh.
about coping with that and my wife's loss, and just because these are the real things. This is where the spirituality becomes real.
Right.
Because, you know, if it's just some lofty philosophy, great, it's a good idea. It's fun to hear it. You know, people talk about it, but we need to be able to find out how to apply it with very real situations. And that's a very real one. And it's not an easy one. And I talk just about learning to overcome grief and loss through Kriya Yoga, actually, through offering up that sense of loss and pain to God in meditation without trying to hold on to it, without trying to push it aside, but just with sharing it with Divine Mother, with the Guru, and offering it up during my Kriya practice, during meditation, and doing that consistently and regularly. It turned that grief into some great joy, into a great soul connection with the soul of my wife, where I felt such great connection there with a soul who no longer was my wife, and maybe in my next life will not be my wife. So there's some freedom there too, that we're not bound by that connection
Husband and wife
in this
bondage.
lifetime. Yeah, in fact, in Autobiography of a Yogi, there's a passage there's so many passages that people pass over, but in one of them, his guru Sri Yukteswarji visits Yogananda after he left the body. It's the resurrection of Sri Yukteswar, and he comes to Yoganandaji and tells him about the astral plane. And he says it's a little confusing when souls first leave the physical body and go there, because they see husbands and wives from this lifetime and they see husbands and wives from last lifetime, and it's all kind of initially confusing.
Yes.
And they see that in another lifetime, they were the parent to this person who they were married to. But then very quickly, they go to that soul connection where we shared many different forms of relationships, but really it's about the connection of the soul. And we're really not husband and wife. And that's why it's good, even now in this life, to look at the soul and the divine within in relating to our spouses, our friends, and everybody. And so that freedom came through offering it up in meditation and prayer for me. And I talk about it in the book. And many similar things can be not just released, but turned into something much more beautiful and greater even that we would not have had otherwise.
Right. Guruji, may I ask, we have many theories about what happens after death, right? So what exactly you believe happens?
belief is one thing.
Knowing is one
Knowing
thing.
is another.
Yeah.
And I think through my own, especially through the connection with the soul of the person who was my wife, who was just really a soul, I think for me, the reality of death is a lot less. It's not something that's very real or even relevant in many, or significant in many ways, because when we start relating to other people on the soul level, but also awakening our own recognition of ourselves as children of God, as divine beings, the form becomes less important. And so it becomes more of a knowing and a trusting. I guess trust is a big part of it. It's no longer just belief, but it's trust that, yes, I know that I've seen it. I've seen people leave the body. You know, my wife's sister left the body too from cancer. It was a genetic predisposition they had. And her very last word to her husband was celebrate. She just had so much joy. She said, celebrate the freedom of the soul who's leaving the body. It's a good thing. In fact, Yogananda, he laughed. He said that when babies are born, these souls are coming into a body from the astral world. And these babies are miserable because all of a sudden they're stuck in this body.
Oh, the warmth.
And
right.
they start crying and screaming. And everyone else is laughing, oh, how cute and all that. And when the soul leaves the body, everyone's crying, but the soul is in joy and is very happy. And to me, that's a reality. It's not just a belief. But I would encourage people to read two things. One is a book called Karma and Reincarnation. And it's Yoganandaji's wisdom and teachings on karma and reincarnation. I found that very helpful to myself in my own journey with this. And it made it very real that souls they survive and thrive more once they leave the body behind. But the other is that chapter in Autobiography of a Yogi called The Resurrection of Sri Yukteswar, where he talks about the astral world. It makes it very, very real, and not just as some, well, do I believe this or not? But he makes it very, very real in many ways.